Welcome back to Triple Threat Podcast. We are at the final installment of our NFL redraft for the 2021 class. Let's get straight into it. Pick 21, the Indianapolis Colts select
Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was selected in the fifth round, I think, by Detroit. And towards the end of the season, this man picked it up and went off. He won a lot of people's fantasy leagues, I can tell you that. And I think with T.Y. Hilton significantly regressed and Michael Pittman making a pretty substantial leap forward, getting St. Brown here will definitely add another dimension for Carson Wentz for an already pretty solid offense. And I think that if they improve that receiver core, they're going to go from a fringe playoff team to a consistent playoff team. You already have a top two running back in the league, so that definitely helps.
and they got to have people bite on the passing game to help the run game. And Pittman wasn't enough alone to do that. And you get somebody who was a top 5 receiver in terms of stats from the final 5-6 games of the season. So easy pick right here. With the next pick 22, we have Tennessee Titans taking a cornerback, not Caleb Farley, who I love. Was hurt and didn't play much. They have J.C. Horn. Break down this pick for me.
So J.C. Horn only played 3 games, but he is a bigger, more physical man coverage kind of corner that I think would do very well in Tennessee, bolstering their defense. This team was the number 1 seed, and they lost Derrick Henry for a substantial amount of games. So
And A.J. and Julio.
AJ and Julio's. We don't talk about Julio, but J.C. Horn is a really solid player when healthy. He had a pick in his second game, and he did a good job holding his receivers, accountable in his first 3 games. And I think he'll do well when healthy.
Yeah, completely agree. And this may not be. This is totally not because of him, but the Panthers were 3-0 with J.C. Horn this season. Moving on, pick 24, pick 23, I should say, Minnesota. They can't get Darisaw, but they're going to go with the trenches regardless, and they're going to get Christian Barmore. Now, what do you think Christian Barmore's rookie season, and why do you think this is a good fit for Minnesota?
So being in New England, he had he had a really good rookie season. This is a guy that, in my opinion, was a kind of fringe first round talent, fell a little bit, and he showed that he really was a first round solidified player. And I think here in Minnesota, they definitely need some help on that defensive line. Um, I haven't really heard too much from Daniil Hunter recently,
He was hurt all
and
season, but he played really well when he was healthy.
yeah, he's been hurt. The rest of their D line has not been consistent, and Barmore is a really nice young guy to come in and fill in that interior spot.
Now, Michael Pierce was a really solid addition to the team, but his snap count was just too low. Only 250 snaps a season. I think he's a valuable player, but they need more rotation pieces on the defensive line, and you could never have too much depth. So, best player available, Christian Barmore.
So moving on to Pittsburgh, they keep their pick here with Najee Harris, and me and you both are very against the idea of taking a running back in the first round. But why do you still have them taking Najee?
Well, one, I don't think there's too many holes on this offense to fill, or on this team to fill, and this team is really predicated around the short passing game, and they really needed something to vary their offense up because James Conner was not cutting it in their backfield, and they needed something to really spark their offense with an aging Ben Roethlisberger. So I think Najee Harris was a really smart pick for them here. Was really incredibly valuable in the passing game, and the running game was a great safety valve for Big Ben. And I think that this is a no-brainer pick here. You have to be a really elite running back to be in the first round, in my opinion. I think the only people I've had in the first round the past couple of years have been Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor. So that really speaks to how well he's done. I don't think there needs to be that much claim to this pick because it's Najee Harris. He's going back to the Steelers. It worked well the first time. Why not run it back?
Yep. You know what? If it ain't broke, why fix it? So
Exactly.
next up, we got Jacksonville with their second pick of the first round, and they're going to take Trayvon Merrick out of TCU. Really solid coverage safety, played in Vegas, and I think this will satisfy some of their needs on their defensive end.
Yeah, you just look at Jacksonville as a whole. Their safety is probably one of the most lackluster positions on their team. Trayvon Merrick had a really solid rookie season, especially for a Raiders team with a pretty dismal secondary. much improved this season. Like they took a
Yeah, no, man.
huge. They went from like one of the worst to one of the uh, top 10, I think.
Yeah,
Really,
Casey
Casey
Hayward,
Hayward
Nate
came back, Nate
Hobbs.
Hobbs, and Trayvon Merrick. So very impactful player.
Definitely. So moving on, we got Cleveland. They cannot take Greg Newsome. Jeremiah Wilson-Karamoa is gone. So they're going to take Pete Warner, who's drafted 60th overall by the New Orleans Saints. You're a Saints fan. Break down this pick.
All right, so if you listen to our reactions, I didn't like the pick of Pete Werner at all. I'm like, really, we need a receiver, and you're going to pick Pete Werner. And there were so many great players available. I was like, oh, you could have picked this guy, you could have picked this guy. But no, they picked Pete Werner. But when Quan Alexander was hurt or when other players were out, I mean, he
He
stepped
stepped it
up
up.
and was tough.
Mm-hmm.
He is a great tackler. He is one of the he was the second best run defender of any linebackers in the league, and that's something that this Cleveland defense needs with two terrible defensive interiors. They got great pass rush, but they need to really supplement that with some run defense, and Pete Werner is going to do that way better than anyone else out here. Really showed that he can step up in his starting linebacker role. His pass coverage is solid, but that's not what they're going to need him for. They have a really solid secondary anyway with not Johnson and Delpit and not Newsom anymore, but with Denzel Ward. So
Denzel Ward, yeah,
they've
Pro
got
Bowler
they've
right
got a
there.
really solid secondary. They just need to solidify that run defense a little bit. So get the best guy at doing that, Pete Werner.
So moving on, we have Baltimore. Or can you say it with the accent?
Baltimore.
There we go. I'm trying to work on that myself actually. So they took Rashad Bateman, a guy that me and you both really liked. Didn't pan out as well.
He
I think
was
he was
hurt.
hurt.
He played
He was
well.
hurt, yeah. But I think Elijah Moore played well on the Jets, which is number one tough. And I think as a route runner, as a quick receiver, he's going to be great for Lamar. And I think that this is a bit of a better fit here.
Now, I love Rashad Bateman, but I love Elijah Moore even more. This guy is tough. He can do anything. He's got explosiveness on the offensive end. He is one of the best slot receivers in the NFL already, in my opinion. He is an absolute menace, and he had some monster games for the Jets this season with a developing Zach Wilson. I think with a team that really values speed, yard after catch, look at guys like Hollywood Brown and Devin Duvernay, someone like Elijah Moore, who you can have as more of a safety valve, like with Mark Andrews. You can have him do anything with this team. Smart routes, which is going to be his primary use, but just send him over the middle and he'll make some magic happen. And then this Baltimore offense is very lacking in terms of creativity at the wide receiver position because Hollywood Brown is a deep threat guy, and you're going to get one or two catches from him a game. You need somebody to take more workload, and Elijah Moore's going to do that perfectly.
Definitely. And moving on, we have New Orleans. And they're going to take, or they took Peyton Turner, which was like really confusing. I'm not going to lie.
I'll talk about that when I talk about the pick. I'm gonna get it. I'm a Saints fan. This is my
But
territory.
yeah, no, this is all you. I'm letting you break this down. But they take Paulson Adebo here. Definitely, really had a great first season. Tell me more about this pick.
So looking at the Saints roster, they were in a win now mode. They needed to win this season. This was kind of a see what you can do with James Winston, and they had one huge glaring hole in this team going into the season, and it was boundary corner because you had Marshall Lattimore, but you just lost Norris Jenkins, and you have nobody out there to replace him, and you need somebody to step up because you're in a division with Tampa Bay and with Carolina with some really good receivers. I mean, we thought Brock Anderson was better than he was,
And Atlanta.
but they don't have two receivers, so they have
They
picks.
have
Though.
a unicorn. They have a versatile weapon.
Let's talk about the pick again. So Paulson Adebo started from day one at a boundary corner, played admirably well, had some rookie growing pains at some time, but he turned it on at the end of the season, had a one-handed pick against Atlanta in the final game of the season, and was really a top corner in my opinion, and was really locking down. I mean, despite the occasional rookie lapse that he had, you don't see a lot of good rookie corners, and Paulson Adebo, after a year off of football, came back with a vengeance and was absolutely phenomenal this season for a rookie, and especially a third rounder. I think he's worthy of a first round pick, and in terms of corners, the only ones available that you can really think of at this point would be someone like Nate Hobbs, and they don't really need a slot guy. They already have someone like Chauncey Gardner Johnson, who's one of the top three slots in the league, and Payne Turner, while showed flashes of brilliance when he played like 2 games and was out all year with a calf injury. So Paul Snead was a great pick, and I think New Orleans should run it back. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Definitely. So Green Bay, they took Eric Stokes here, who had a really good first season. Stepped in for Jair Alexander when he got hurt, but I think Pat Freiermuth right here out of Penn State is definitely better. Another option for Aaron Rodgers throw to. You got Devontae. You have two great running backs, and now you solidify that tight end position.
Now this is an interesting pick because you look at Nate Hobbs' season was a top 5 slot cornerback this season. Played impressively well. Sub again through all the litany of injuries that the Raiders had this season. But when you look at this team, they already have a lot of really good secondary pieces. You look at Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, who turned it on to a whole new level this season.
I think he made the Pro Bowl.
He should have. I mean, I don't know if he
Yeah,
did or not, but
definitely.
he was his late game heroics, his picks. He was incredibly impactful for this team, and they also have some solid other pieces. I know they don't want to hear it, but Kevin King is all right. There's some other guys like Eric Stokes who they picked, but we'll get into that later. But they need somebody at tight end. They lost Robert Tonyan for the season, left with Josiah DeGuara and Jay Sternberger. That's really just not going to cut it for a team. You give them somebody like Pat Freiermuth, have some more options in the passing game. A red zone target, was a beast in the red zone for the Seahawks this season. And I think you get the more dynamic offense, and I think they win that playoff game if they have somebody like Pat Freiermuth in that game, because their offense was only put up 10 points that game in the snow. You need a big body like Pat Freiermuth. The Muth is loose.
But then again, if we're looking at this redraft and San Fran takes Mac Jones,
In the cold, I'm not sure. Mac Jones in the cold last time had an impressive outing. Took home the W with 2 of 3 completions. Very impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive. They got running backs, so it's chill. Moving on, we got Buffalo, and they take one of my favorite players in this draft, someone that's really turned it up for Kansas City, Nick Bolton. He's been one of PFF's. I think he's in the top 15 for linebackers.
He was on the radar before the draft, anyways. This was kind of an analytics darling before the draft, and kind of a guy. He was a sleeper coming out of Missouri, and obviously I keep my ear and tap to a lot of knowledgeable people in the draft community, and when I hear the name Nick Bolton come up over and over again, I'm like, this guy must have some credence to the name being brought up this much. And if I'm being honest, I would have loved to hear Nick Bolton instead of Pete Werner at the time of the draft. Obviously, I take that back now, but Nick Bolton has been an incredibly good player, and you can argue who had a better season between him and Pete Werner. And even JOK, all of them are very similar in terms of how they played this season. I think JOK is a little bit he's significantly ahead of them in my opinion, but I think that not too far behind in tier 2 you have Pete Werner and Nick Bolton. And you look at Buffalo's defense, Matt Milano, AJ Klein. The outside linebacking group was not great for them. Obviously, Tremaine Edmonds was a solid player.
It's a really good defense. Secondary was great. Defensive line was pretty solid.
Best in the league.
I think solidifying that linebacker position will hopefully allow them to not make the same mistakes by letting like Travis Kelce have 0 people around him and
Nick Bolton is wide open.
Yep. So we got Baltimore next, or say it again.
You get it once an episode.
All right, we'll get one Baltimore accent once an episode. But they do take another edge rusher, and Odafe Always, great player, but I think Kwity Paye is also really solid, but has that upside, really just a freak athlete as well, and definitely somebody that can grow in Baltimore's defensive system.
I mean, you're going to look at him, only had 4 sacks this season, but I think his influence was far-reaching and had a really, really surprisingly good season in my opinion. I was a big Kwity Paye fan. His athleticism is freakish. So is Odafe Owe, but I think Kwity Paye offers so much more in terms of his abilities and his versatility. I think his upside as a pass rusher is something that you can't look back on. And I think that he really... I think Odafe probably fits their system more in terms of what he can do playing 3 technique and 5 technique, but and outside. But Kwity Paye is just an absolute unit, an athletic and phenomenon, a unicorn of the defensive end.
I like that analysis right there. And moving on to Tampa Bay, they don't really have many great quarterback options here, and so they take Owe, so one pick after, and I think just a really really good talent, bolstering an already good defense, and somebody that can take over for a guy like JPP who's definitely coming to an end to his career.
Mm-hmm. And before we wrap it up, I'm going to give some honorable mentions to some players that didn't quite make it, but I think definitely deserve some love. So Rashad Bateman, Eric Stokes, Elijah Molden, Nate Hobbs, Jonathan Cooper, and I think there's some other names: Sam Cosmi, Jamin Davis, Aziz Ojulari, Levi Onwuzurike, Divine Diablo, Jackson Campbell, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, some other notable names here. I'm probably forgetting a couple.
Oh, Eric Stokes.
I think I said Eric Stokes. Nico Collins played really well. Greg Rousseau. And I think that's kind of it for the names I can think of right now off the top of my head. But I think overall we got a pretty solid group this year. A really, really impressive draft class in terms of the rookie impact. I mean, those are 32 players that made an immediate impact on their team, and all were a contributor to winning football of some kind. I don't think there's any slouches on this team. I mean, I guess Penny Sewell, but I mean, only one that didn't have a winning, and some of the quarterbacks, some of the higher picks, but everyone after that was a contributor to winning football.
Definitely, like the fact that Kwity Paye and Odafe Owe are your last two picks says a lot about what this draft class offers, and I'm excited to see them just develop and become legitimate contributors to contending NFL teams.
Yeah. And obviously, it's hard to hit on the draft, but looking back, do you have any big winners of the 2020 draft? Someone who got the picks right, someone who has a lot of picks in this redraft. Who do you think had a great draft?
I think number one, Dallas. They got the number one player. I think Cincinnati definitely hit a home run there with Jamar Chase. Miami with Jalen Phillips and Jalen Waddle, definitely really solid there. Cleveland, they took Greg Newsome and Jeremiah Wilson-Termo.
That was going to be my team right there.
Yeah, that was going to be my team. And then also Pittsburgh, man. You got Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, so really solid guys right there.
And one more team I want to give a shout out for the Lions, Amon-Ra.
I was just about to say that,
Amon-Ra
man.
and Penny Sewell, and another team, 2 first-round picks in our redraft. Obviously, one of them is heavily biased, but without only having 1 first-round pick, not even in this conversation, their second and third-round pick, the Saints. Jeff Ireland always gets it right. He has had phenomenal draft history, and I always said, I may not like the pick, but I will be forced to like it because Jeff Ireland doesn't miss.
Oh, New England. Mac Jones,
Christian Barmore.
Right there as well. So, wow, there's a lot.
Oh, Kansas City,
Jets.
Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Almost forgot about that. Even the Jets, Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore. So yeah, there were a lot of big winners in this draft. And even some teams like Atlanta, like they still got a Pro Bowler out of the 4th overall pick, and somebody that's going to be a mainstay on their offense for a long time.
Chargers, Rashawn Slater, Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh, yeah. Even Denver, Patrick Surtain. Wow, there's
Jonathan
a
Cooper.
lot.
Good pick right there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot there. Oh, I totally forgot. Miami also got Javon Holland too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they really hit. So I'm gonna call my big winner Miami.
I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna say Cleveland's my big winner.
All right, there you have it. So that concludes our redraft. We will definitely be doing more of these in the NFL and the NBA. So stay tuned for those. Peace.